Let me first of all congratulate to and compliment to uh, AgroVision for conducting such a webinar on different subjects. And also I thanks for giving me opportunity to specifically put forward my views and Government of India's what the initiative has been taken up in the field of farm mechanization. So I do not to uh, elaborate upon this, what is the benefits of farm mechanization. All of you are aware that actually everybody has now realized that the importance of farm mechanization. Without the farm mechanization being considered as one of the major input for agriculture production and productivity, and it has been realized by everybody that without farm mechanization, we can't expect any more growth in the agriculture. That already been realized, and particularly in this COVID period, this lockdown period, and it has been more realized. Actually, you know that mechanization played a very important role during this lockdown period. You know that Punjab and Haryana was severely facing this labors on the farm, actually shortage of farm. But basically, these farmers have been come up with a very innovative ideas, or scientists have come up with a very innovative ideas, and they have sorted out the problem of this transplanting. So now they have come up with a DSR system, and more than 25% area has been, that means we can cover this paddy through DSR system. And this is a really been, we can hats off to all our scientists and our farmers, because that's why we are calling it as a, initiative has always been a, is the, of this, necessity has always been a mother of all inventions. That is what we are calling as it. And that's why, as Dr. Badegaonkar has been rightly said, that we need the technologies which has been required at the local level as per modification. So I will just go on through what is the initiatives of the Government of India has been taken up so far. Taking into realization of this farm mechanization, so Government of India has already been introduced submission on agriculture mechanization in the country. And that we have been taken care, entire aspects of agriculture mechanization cover many of these aspects by different components. So we'll go one by one. Just can you just next slide, please? So as Dr. Mai has already been rightly pointed out, that there's a drastic reduction in the farm power, this labor availability on the farm, and this is going to be further reduced. And so we have to be very much prepared for ourselves for this one. And here the farm mechanization has to play a very important role, this one. So next. So all already been aware that farm mechanization's role actually. So you know that we have been now presently in 2016-17, we have been stand about 2.02 kilowatt per hectare, and so we have been made a target of more than 2.5 kilowatt by 2030. So that is what we have been already planned, and we have been having the macro planning on this one, how to improve our farm productivity on our farm. So next slide. So actually, if you compare we have been comparing to our nearby neighbors only, particularly in the southern area. Here we can see that many of the advanced countries, our farm probability has been much more higher. And for that, we have to do very rigorous in this field of farm mechanization. And Government of India is striving their hard to that means have a big investment in this farm mechanization, because without investment we can't expect any farm mechanization. Next. So here also there are some of the areas where we have to look after. Basically, this paddy area where still been is manually transplanted, and that has to be looked after. So red zone, which I have been shown, Dr. Mai also again put it that so harvesting etc. of cotton is a very cumbersome job, and still we don't have the mechanization in this area. So these are some of the different field crop and different mechanization activities which we have to take care, so that we can improve our farm mechanization in these areas. Next. Next slide, please. So here the sale of a tractor, and we have been crossed more than 8 lakh tractors per annum. And this has really been our tractor industry, we can say that when they have been doing very hard work, particularly for this bringing this tractor technology in our country. And we have been also exporting about 10% of tractors to the different countries, even USA as well as to the other southern America and different parts of the country. And even Europe also we have been covering by export our tractors. So that's really been, we can say that the tractor industry is coming forward, and it's proud that actually one of our Mahindra and Mahindra is one of the leading company in the world. We have been producing a largest tractor we can buy volume wise, we can say that in the world. Next. So that's why I told you that the Government of India has launched this submission on agricultural mechanization, and these are the objectives. Basically, we have been focusing on the small and marginal farmers because there have been more than 84% of farmers are small and marginal farmers. That's why our policy is mostly driven to this sector only, to cover this particularly target group of small and marginal farmers. Here we have been more focusing on the custom hiring center because our small and marginal farmers are not been afford this bigger or higher horsepower range tractors or higher which have been very costly equipments cannot be afforded by this small and marginal farmer. So that's why this custom hiring establishment of custom hiring center is going to be a key role in the near future of agricultural mechanization. Next. So this is the specifically, I will just in glimpses, I will just show you what are the different components. Basically, we are giving the financial assistance for the procurement of various agricultural equipments, and the subsidies ranges from 40 to 50% of the total cost of the equipments. Then establishment of farm machinery custom hiring centers. So here we are also giving 40% limited to 60 lakh rupees. And another is if suppose it's a high tech and high value custom hiring center, then it will be ranges up to a project cost of 250 lakh rupees. So and then particularly for promotion in the village level, selected village where the farm mechanization has been launched, there we are giving 80% of the custom subsidy, but limited to 10 lakh rupees for the group of farmers. And we have been specifically focused on this northeastern region, where we can say that it is at infant stage, particularly northeastern region of farm mechanization, where we are giving 100% subsidy limited to 1.25 lakh rupees, as well as 95% subsidy for the group of farmers for establishment of custom hiring centers. Next, please. So, and then one of the aspect specific actually to take down all this technology which has been developed by our ICR scientists to the field level. So that's why we are having even by our private manufacturers. So that unless and until this technology reaches to the field, then otherwise there is no value of that one. So that's why this is a specific component for demonstration of this one. Here we are giving a 100% grant for procurement of machinery. The state government can procure the machinery and they can demonstrate this technology to the field directly to the farmers. Then we are also having one of the component for testing, that is, that we are having. I will explain you that one in the next slides. But before that, actually, we are having 4 farm machinery. You can use the next slide, please. We are having 4 farm machineries actually in the countries, and these 4 farm machineries are not in a position to cope up the entire need of the country. That's why we also designated more than 33 SAUs and other state governments to test these equipments for the quality improvements. And here we are giving assistance about 1.5 crore rupees for each center as a grant in aid. Here you can see that the Government of India has invested particularly for farm mechanization, because without investment you can't see any farm mechanization in the country. So that's why we can see that in the last 6-7 years we have more than 4,500 crore rupees we have invested in and still we have been doing much more. Other schemes also, like RKS scheme is also there, then NFSM scheme is there, and other NMOP scheme is there of Government of India. So where also the farm mechanization component is there, and there also the investment of Government of India is there. So next, please. So these are the farm machineries for FMT types which have been located at different corners of the country. For the central region, our farm machinery training and testing Budni is available. Then for northern region at Hisar. Then for Assam, we are having one northeastern region, specifically in Bishwanath Charali, and then southern part to take care of cater the entire need of southern is in Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh. So these are not covering the trading aspect, but as well as for the testing of this one. So here I would like to convey particularly this to the entire audience that in India, this testing of tractor has been started before the automobile testing. That is one of the things, and this has been done by the Budni Institute by creation of Budni Institute in 1955 itself. So that's why the Budni Institute has played a very important role for quality control. What we have been seeing these tractors in the today's era, these particularly the advanced tractors. So most of the credit goes to the our Budni Institute because they have developed so much of standards for this one and really hard work for particularly bringing all this upgradation of these tractors. Next, please. So these are the different, other than 4 farm machineries, these are the different institutes which have been designated by us. Next, please. So these are the achievements. We can say that more than 11 lakh farm machineries we are distributed during the last 6 years, and custom hiring center more than 18,000, and then high techs 255, total trainees trained by more than 69,000. And then total demonstration conduct more than 46,000, total machine tested more than 2,000, and then total machine tested at our designated institute more than 6,000. Next, please. So apart from this, our SMM, we are introduced for, as Dr. Badegaonkar has already stated, specifically for in-situ management. So we are already introduced this during last 2 years. We have introduced this in-situ management script on corn residue, particularly for the 4 states, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, and Uttar Pradesh. These 4 states have been covered under this one, and here we are giving financial assistance to the farmers as well as FPOs and other self-help groups, particularly for the establishment of customer center as well as for the distribution of agriculture machine. We are also been funding to the ICR for demonstration of various technologies and to take all this technology at the growth level. Then you can also see that because you know that we have been all using the taxis like our by the different modes, like the same taking to the same principle. We also launched this app on custom hiring center for that is Uberization, we can say that on farm machinery. And here more than 1,500 custom hiring center and as well as farmers, those who are already having this farm machinery have been registered on this one, and people and farmers are taking the advantage of this one. It is entirely been free of cost, and then there is a contact between the custom hiring center owner or farm machinery owner and the farmers, and it's been very successfully running. Then creation of portal on DBT agriculture mechanization to bring the transparency into the for distribution of agriculture machinery and implementation of our submission on agriculture mechanization. We also introduced DBT portal. Here the entire process from taking the application of these farmers to the release of the subsidy is the entire process even through the online, and the farmer need not to go to the any office or anywhere. And this is very fantastic software which has been developed by this our government of India and been implemented, and people have been very much appreciated for this one. Then Krishi Kalyan Abhiyan is also going to be launched by the government, and where the aspirational districts are there, which will be more focused by the different agriculture activities, and one of the activities also this our farm mechanization.
Though we talk about tractor like that is indicator, but it reflects a fairly good level of like that is mechanization what we have. So like that is tractor industry is the largest industry in the world, and this accounts for nearly like that is 1/3 of the global tractor productions. And we are in a position to sell nearly 7 to 8 lakh tractors in a year, around 50,000 power tillers and support equipments are being sold in India. So this fairly gives like that is a very good market for tractor. Yeah, like farm mechanization finance, like that is a here. I like to say that there is a scope to lend around 31 lakh crores to the total priority sector. And out of this total priority sector lending, nearly around 2.7% to 3% is for farm mechanization, and it is about 1 lakh crore. This is our projection for farm mechanization lending. And if we see that there is a ground level credit, proposed ground level credit in 2020-21 is estimated at around 15 lakh crores. And out of this, we see a loan can go to farm mechanization sector to the extent of around 41,000 crore. My assumptions are based on like that is the GLC, means ground level credit to agriculture sector, is growing at an average rate of around 11%. Market share of tractors, like that is for every 100 tractors sold, nearly 80 tractors are being financed, and around 50 tractors means are bought by the own funds from the buyers. And major share of financing comes from private sector banks as well as from NBFCs. Like that is the reason, like I think most of you will be already aware. Almost all the tractor manufacturers, they have their financing model, like that is they have opened an NBFC which will finance not only their tractors but also that is other farm equipments. Then here I accept, like that is my previous speakers also told that public sector banks, RRBs and cooperatives contribute to merely 20% of the sale, whereas major finance is coming from private sector financing and NBFCs. And domestic sale, like that is farm mechanization, is registering an impressive growth of around 10%. I think this is also told my previous speakers. And India is expected to, India has expected during the previous year around 92,000 tractors. This fairly gives like that is a picture about our tractor share or farm mechanization market. See, under the COVID conditions, like that is our previous speakers are, I fully agree with them. Like that is on account of the COVID, tractor sale is estimated to dip around 10%. This is see, there are two ways of looking at it. One is like that is because of COVID conditions, most of our migrant laborers, they have migrated. So we are in need of like that is more machines to meet our farm requirements, and particularly like that is with the onset of Kharif and things like that. So like that is we require more of mechanization. But what happens is like that is the market says that there is a tractor sale dip by 10% when compared to automobile sector dip. Like automobile sector dip around 35%, whereas the tractor sales dip by 10%. And around 80,000 tractor sale was lost during the last 3 months, but however it is expected that the sales is expected to pick up during the next 4 months on account of a favorable monsoon as well as the demand from the farmers. So like that is farm mechanization trade. I like to say that we have a mixed thing, like that is we also export farm machineries and we also import. I like to say like there's around 1 lakh tractors in a year we are exporting, whereas we are importing somewhere around 5,000 tractors annually. And we export somewhere around 1,500 combine harvest and we import around 5,000 combine harvest. Imports are increasing. And we export nearly 6,000 seed drills and transplanters, and import nearly 10,000 plus seed drills and planters, and this is increasing. Then issues in farm mechanization already, like that previous speakers have fairly covered, like that is 86% of our holding is with small and marginal farmers who have less than 2 hectares. That is the major issue in mechanization. Then second major issue is like that is elaborate credit procedures, which I have already told you, and like that is that only give more room for the NBFCs and private sector banks to play, and we need to simplify the like that is credit procedure and the higher initial investment, like that is here I like to add also, like most of this farm mechanization activities also get support from the government. So like that is a government support comes with certain criteria for qualifying, as well as like that is for what activity, how it has to be, and what are the eligibility criteria and things like that. So I think that this could be one of the reasons for public sector banks to come in a big way for financing tractor. Then third thing is that there is an initial investment cost and interest cost. So like that is this makes the private players to like that is hesitate a financial decision in setting up of even custom hiring center. Then subsidy available is linked to like that is a budget allocation, and it is not linked to the potential of credit potentials for farm mechanization. And here also I think the budget of the government based on the like that is what I can say like that's the total budget available, they are trying to give rationalization. Then many tractors are not insured and registered, and hence even banks hesitate to finance. This is also one of the reasons. Then I fully agree with my previous about that awareness. Like that is among the farmers, the problem is that we need to give a very good demonstration so that they understand and they go for mechanization. Then see like that is this much I think I needed to elaborate, and here and almost I think my previous speakers have fairly covered. Like that is this basically gives an idea that we have to go for, you can go for the next slide. So basically this here what I want to say is that need for custom hire centers as well as agri-machinery banks. So both our government like that is submission on agriculture mechanization as well as like that is doubling the farmers income, like that is the group which was formed for doubling the farmers income. Both say that we have to go for custom hire centers. Yeah. So mechanization of small and marginal farmers can happen only through promotion of custom hiring centers as well as agri-machinery banks. And so far nearly like that is I think our colleagues told that around 18,000 custom hiring centers have been supported, and we also get that is my Singh Saab ne kaha hai, like that is there are more millions of other small players who came forward for supporting the requirements of their fellow farmers. So that way like that is we get a message around 45,000 custom hiring centers are linked to hiring, that is custom hiring center portal of farm machinery. This is developed by Government of India first, and which is benefiting nearly 1,20,000 farmers. And NABARD conducted a study on effectiveness of like that is custom hiring centers along with the CAA and the FACE. It broadly says that the purpose for which these custom and hiring centers have been envisaged, they are fulfilled. It provides opportunity for agri entrepreneurs, empowering rural youths gainfully, then cope with the increasing labor scarcity, effectively handle the crisis situations. Like now, if we would have been better mechanized, this COVID situation would have been still better handled. And again, like that is access to mechanism to small and marginal farmers. This is like even the government data says that more than 40,000 custom hiring centers are catering the needs of more than 1,20,000 farmers. It enhances the use of technology and machines. Otherwise, small and marginal farmers would have never got an opportunity to use these technologies. Yeah, challenges faced in custom hiring centers. Higher initial investments. This is a major issue. Then the small holdings. So private players not to come forward for investing in custom hire centers. So that is the reason like that is even now we are not in a position to get a very good number of custom hiring centers, like even availability of machines and implements. With the custom hiring centers, what the studies say is also like it is a seasonal, like in peak season, farmers are in a position to means almost all the farmers need the machines, so they are not in a position to get the required machines. And during the lean season, these machines are kept idle. So some mechanism have to be worked out for this also. Then that documentation, like that is most of these custom hire centers are supported through submission of agri-machinery. So like that is their subsidy eligibility releases are linked to certain criteria of the government schemes. So documentation is must. Then training the entrepreneurs. Key areas of training, like I agree with my previous speakers, knowledge on machine, its application, technology, then business skills, cash flow planning. All these things have to be like that is, they have to be trained. A mechanism can be worked out something in the case of that is ACABCs, means Agri Clinic, Agri Business Centers. Their government is making arrangements through this manage for training these agripreneurs into this agri clinic and agri business centers. So something like that, like that is structured training will help running these customer hearing centers more successfully. Then availability of the trained manpower. This is also the challenge that this custom hearing centers face. So like that is this we have already seen, like custom hair centers, they should be flexible enough because most of them require higher investments. Higher investments means they have to go for bank loans, and they will be getting support from the government. So they need to fulfill the requirements of the bankers as well as government schemes. Then selection of entrepreneur, that makes it that is very crucial. Like they should have they should be mostly from the local areas, and they should have the knowledge on agriculture, technical expertise, soft skills, and working with groups. These are the minimum skills that be required for agripreneurs. Then access to finance, subsidy documentation, this we have already seen. Then maintenance of the machinery and financial record. This is more critical, particularly like that is when we see a local custom hiring center come up from the local areas, then at least they should have the facility for maintenance of the machineries, and also like that is they should have sufficient skills for keeping the financials in track. Otherwise, after maybe a year or two, they will come to know that this custom hiring center has incurred loss rather than making a profit. And then monetization systems, this is also the things. So basically, so like I fully agree with my previous speakers, like that is a custom hiring centers will only give scope for our small and marginal farmers go for like that is mechanization, and which will certainly improve our production and productivity.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the trigger point to give an opposite view. I wouldn't say opposing view. This is the view from a manufacturer point of view, from whatever I've heard and whatever I know of how mechanization is perceived. The first difference I see is in the definition of mechanization itself. One of the previous speakers established that it is not exactly tractorization. Well, I can't say I'm happy to hear that, because the class tractor is one of the top 5 tractors in the world in terms of quality and technology. Is it a harvester? Well, if somebody says harvesting is not the only thing which can define mechanization, well, we are known for as the world top 2 harvester manufacturers. So it gives a rather, how shall I say, motivated view to not defend, but to actually agree. And therefore, what I'm trying to say here is that the definition cannot be limited to tractors only or to using some small implements. It has to be a very wide view. This has to be an end-to-end viewpoint. And unless we do that, we have seen this, as Dr. Kale said, that during the lockdown period, there were several places, several processes that were broken due to flight of farm labor. And that underlines, that underscores why it is important to have an end-to-end view, not just the tractor usage or land preparation or harvesting. It is from pre to post harvesting. We have seen from the government perspective, from enablers, from supporting organization of various government engineering departments, a lot of view is taken to the end result, to the effect part. I'm going to try and bring you the cause part of why it is important focus on the cause side so that the effect is achieved. And why are we trying to achieve a level of mechanization only? No. I think the larger objective is the so-called doubling of income, but primarily to improve the efficiency of farming so that the earning of the farmer goes up, whether it's in the small, medium, large, industrial, commercial sector. That's a larger objective. Let's see on the cost side also of how this is there. And why is it important to look at the cost side? Because if we have been addressing the effect side since last 10, 20, 30 years, why are we still at 2.2 kilowatt per hectare? Why are we looking at only 2.5 per hectare? I'm not trying to differ with you, Dr. Kale, but I'm trying to say here that a private sector view would have been fine if we have a target of 2.5. What will it take it to 4 or to 3? And that's how private sector always looks at. I'm sorry, I don't work for a government company, but that's how I've been trained for the last 3 decades that I'm working here, of what will it take me to take the extra leap forward. And I see that it is not just on the effect side, it's also on the cause side that is very, very important. When you look at the cause side, the first thing private sector would do is to break the status quo. So you analyze what is on the effects on the cause side. So let's see description of the problem. Look at paddy harvesting. You go to South India, paddy harvesting is at 85% level. Mechanization of paddy harvesting, 85%. You go to eastern side, which is exploding now due to paddy, 45%. And actually 45%, I'm being actually mild in my assessment because I like those people there in Bengal and Orissa in Northeast, but it's actually pathetically low after so many decades of addressing the effect side. Look at dairy. I'm now changing to the sectoral view on the dairy side. If you go to Punjab and Gujarat, the understanding of importance of cattle fodder, take maize silage, for example, is 100%. Everybody knows in Punjab what is achar, what is pickle, and that's the silage part. But you go to other areas which are producing milk, there are people who their standards of living are going up, and therefore the milk consumption is going up. The knowledge of why a good quality fodder is required to achieve an end result, again, on the cost side, not known. They think that giving paddy straw is good enough. If I look at the crop differentials that are there and look at the harvesting levels, so paddy, as I said, 85-45, let's keep it at 70% average national harvesting mechanization. Wheat, 60%. My number could be wrong, but there's no established data bank from where we can get an endorsed statement. So this is not a syndicated data. This is a manufacturer's assessment who has got a lot of interest in wheat. 60% national average harvesting. You go to maize, just the harvesting part is barely 10%. Anything else that is passed off as harvesting must be refuted because there is no advanced maize specific harvester. So basically you're using something else to do maize harvesting, which is actually not meant for it. Interesting part is mustard. You go to Rajasthan, you have this hectares and hectares and miles of mustard, zero mechanization. Anything that is done there or there is an improvisation which cannot be taken as a part of standard process. So therefore there is a regional difference, there is a sectoral difference, and there is within the crop itself, within a region, you have various differences of level of mechanization. And I've taken only the example of harvesting. I'm not yet touching upon baling part. I'm not touching on transplanting part because there the story becomes even more grim. So I said, let's look at the cost side, and I'm going to want to bring out 4 points only. So I won't be taking a lot of time in talking about this. On the cost side, if you open up a university book and you read what is there, somebody just said that the first tractor was built in the early 1900s. Many of the universities, the agri-universities and schools that talk about farm machinery actually start from that age. Sure, you need to always sketch history, but where does it land up at? It stops at probably a 35 HP tractor, which is actually considered micro in global terms. So when we say that we are the largest manufacturer of tractors in the world, sure, by volumes, by HP, sorry, not even in the top 20 probably. And therefore, at the education level, we need to look at the curriculum. Few years ago, we worked with the Haryana government to look at the curriculum, and we could actually bring about a sea change because it's so easy to address that. To call a subject expert, harvesting, get class. For tractors, get one of my fellow manufacturers here. For transplanting, somebody else and all, and they do it pro bono. They do it free of cost. And therefore, it is very, very easy thing to do to update curriculum of what we are teaching our students who are going to be the budding enablers of the farming society. In agriculture employee levels, I'm very happy to see a lot of money is getting directed there. So I don't have to talk about a gap analysis there. There is a gap, and hence the budget is there. I'm happy to see that it is recognized. But a refresher course every 3 years would actually not harm. It would actually help in upgrading what's technology in. There are multinational companies. Class, for example, is a German multinational. There are people from various advanced economies who have adapted themselves to the Indian way of farming, understanding what's a small and marginal and mid and high level farming here. And therefore, they can actually syndicate, they can customize training programs for government agriculture, government employees to suit the local needs. We go to training parts. There are a lot of training extension program for happening for farmers. We have to do that from trying to break the status quo, and I'll talk about this. When you look at the training part, it has to be a very wide spectrum. So the Skill Development Council of India is a very, very interesting one. There is an agriculture skill development, everybody knows also. For some time, I was also on the consulting team of the thing. And one day I was handed over a harvesting curriculum for training. So I said, who has done that? He said, we have done it. So I said, well, I'm sitting here. I'm not even aware. And when I looked at it, it had the same story of the university curriculum that I had told you about. This is talking about the past, not what is today and what's going to come around. Therefore, Skill Council curriculum in the manner they are imparting training must be very, very important. Again, I appreciate the government's understanding of the gap, that it is not just farmers, it's actually the whole ecosystem that has to be trained into receiving machinery. Many people think that farmers buy machinery. Sorry, they have stopped doing that because now they have understood that there's a government program and there's a parallel economy of rental contractors that drive mechanization. Therefore, are we addressing that sector? No. That sector is completely missed. It's like under the table, yes, 18,000 custom hiring centers are operated by these, but I can tell you there might be 18 million more such contractors who are helping the government achieving the target of mechanization that they're doing now. We must not forget them. Operators and mechanics are covered in many programs. Take the Orissa Farm Research and Development Corporation that has got a very advanced program. We run the Class Academy concept with 6 public universities. Is that all? Pathetically low, very, very low. There are limitations on resources from the trainer side, from our side, and of course, how much can a university do? So that program is getting attention from the government. I'm very happy to note that. My next point is on, the second one out of the 4 is on operational efficiency. This was touched upon by Dr. Mai, and we all know it. We keep the size of the farm small. You can do whatever you want. You cannot improve operating efficiency. But this is a societal challenge. We have to accept it. And I'm therefore very happy to see that we are moving in that direction of framing a contract law, which is extremely good because so that there is no unfair means adopted on either side of the contract. We must promote, therefore, this one. We must promote commercial farming. Privatization word in India is resisted by bank employees, it is resisted by government hospitals, resisted by airports and everything else. If we have to improve operational efficiency, we must look at, in fact, I encourage, not just wait for, but we also proactively seek out commercial farming people who can actually bring together small farmers by which everybody gains. It becomes a win-win game. Consolidation, this happened long time back in Europe also. They were also splitting into small groups, sons and fathers and grandsons and grandchildren, but somebody then thought of consolidation, again, in the private sector side. So these are operational efficiency issues. We know it. Now that we have a law, armed with a law, we have the weapon that somebody said. Now we have to hand it over to the soldier and take him to a particular direction. My third point is on the technology upgradation. And this is an example I give to my colleagues. If you do not break the status quo, which means the input side is not changing, we have been taught in school that the output side will not change. Take example of a sickle. So if you give a perfectly engineered curved sickle to a farmer, it does not mean that you have given him a technology that is better than what he was doing earlier. What you have done, you have maintained the status quo. And therefore, when we are looking at targeting the technology, if you limit your thinking, your view to a small and marginal segment farmer, and you give him what he wants today, and do not tell him, do not fund, do not motivate him to what could be a tomorrow, you are actually directing the status quo. I touch upon this in the fourth point, but for so much time, I move to next point, which is about availability under technical upgradation. My third point is that when there is a machine available for a commercial farmer, there must be a machine available for a small farmer also. The balance is very important. Manufacturers are very, very aware of this. Their business is to sell and do business, and therefore they will not impose a large machine on a small farmer or try to promote what's important, what's useful for a small farmer onto an industrial segment. Take example of forage harvesting for creating silage from maize. Just an example of what we do. We have a machine that costs 2.5 crores for commercial maize forage harvesting. We have a machine which costs 3.5 to 4 lakhs that addresses the small and marginal farmer. Does the farmer have to own it? No. Just that young bright guy in that village or the customizing center has to own it, and the whole village benefits by that. This is not a big machine, so a very small machine can be tied to a tractor. Therefore, when you are looking at manufacturers, when the government talks to us, it must talk about, fine, you have something for this and you have something for the segment. Does this change the status quo of the farmer? Or again, you're giving that golden, nicely perfected sickle to him. Look at Europe, and I will not go too much on Europe because the argument is always defeated that they are way ahead, ages ahead, decades ahead of us. Yeah, on to the last point then. And therefore, it will be very important that we look at countries around us and see that they have actually taken a wide view to mechanization. The last point was on the financing part. The financing part is where the major funding today is going into maintaining status quo in the small farmer segment. I'm very happy that Mr. Kale, that you fund high-tech centers. There must be some of these because these are technologies of tomorrow. These are the ones that will therefore benefit even small farmers. Hence, the financing support from NABARD or anybody should support a change. It should finance a change and not finance maintenance of status quo.
Right.
Thank you very much.